Walk away quietly in any direction and taste the freedom of the mountaineers. Climb the mountains and get the good tidings. Nature's peace will flow into you, and the wilderness flowers in the trees. The winds will blow their freshness into you, and the storms their energy, while cares drop off like falling leaves. That's a quotation by John Muir about going hill walking. My wife and I, when we turned 50, we sat down one day and said we must do something in our 50s. The boys have all gone, that's our family. And we turned round and said, well, how about doing the Munros? Now, the Munros are these mountains in Scotland that are over 3,000 feet high. And at that time, there's 277 marked up. But now there's 284 because they're just heights with satellite imaging giving different heights. So anyway, we decided we'd do the Munros, set about getting the books for the routes and the mountain, where the mountains were. And then we started off just after our 50th birthday, first of all climbing Ben Lomond, which seems to be a common one for most people to start. It's quite easy to get to from Edinburgh. And then gradually we accumulated all the other mountains in the local area. When I say local, that included the area around about Ben Lomond and up as far as Crane-Larry. Then we started going out further afield, where we would either camp in our tent or sometimes sleep in the back of the car, and then occasionally into bed and breakfast accommodation. And we did that almost every weekend that we had available to do that. And we went off and just gradually started ticking them off, as people say. And then we had a huge map which had all the Munros on it, so we started sticking pins in that. And when I was teaching, I used to do that in my classroom, so the kids would always come in on a Monday morning and say, where were you this time? We'd show another pinpoint. So it went on and on and on, clocking them all up. And then within 9 years we'd done a lot, but we'd done a lot more as well, going out and climbing mountains overseas as well, Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro, mountains throughout Austria, Italy and France, and also over in the United States. We managed to go over there and do some of them as well. And eventually we completed them all. And our last mountain was Anachmore, which lies just beside Ben Nevis there. And with a group of friends, we all came up and, shall I say, drank a little bit while we were sitting on the top for our last Munro. And it was really a fantastic day. But accompanying us was not only the rest of our family, but my granddaughter, who was only a few months old, and she came up on my son's back to the top. Fortunately, it was a fine day. It wasn't a bad day, because some of the days were foul. We got caught out in snow periodically. Other days it were roasting because it was so hot. One of the cooling hills we were on, one of the days there, it was so hot we managed to get a little patch of snow and melt it so we could have a drink of water, but we had to be very careful. And we soon got into the way of actually taking food and whatever it was. So we did that. So we managed to do the 277 then, but also did about 100 other peaks as well as that. And we did it during the period of our 50s. So I'd encourage anyone else who wants to take it up. Look at us. We did very well. We're not Munro baggers anymore. We've seen the sun rise over Kilimanjaro as we scaled its icy dome, climbed the rugged peaks of Mount Kenya, and far away from home have trekked across the high Himalayas and crossed the Karakoram in Pakistan, trod on the White Mountains of New England, the Pamirs and Chen Shan. 3,000 metre peaks in the Dolomites, the Alps and Pyrenees, and quite a wheen of others we have climbed up overseas. But these were just practice runs and made a bit of a show to help us to scale these 277 Scottish peaks, the ones we call Munros. There are names that now drop off the tongue: Coolin, Phoenix and the Moors, Torridon, Fisherfield, African Tail, the Gorms and many more. We've done these Skewers, these Stobs, these Bens, these Jarrags, Moors and Begs, and we've murdered millions of midges as they ate in their arms and legs. Close companions have come accompanied us up Corrie's Ridge and Scree, done 102 with them and his wife who came for as well on tea. And we have often eaten her Eccles cakes to help us on our way and taken his shortcuts that usually added hours to the day. Many a dram and pint we've had together, though she often sipped her port, raced off the mountains to the pub when the time was getting short. We've shared many B&B, camping site and joke, and never even questioned why they went behind a rock. That was to study the geology, by the way. There's been times when we've wondered how far we've got to go as we navigate with compass through rain and sleet and snow, and icy blasts have felled us to cool upon our knees, and there's been climbs like that we've abandoned in adverse times like these. But there's been days when blue skies and panoramic views identifying the peaks we've climbed and more we had to do. And we've taken skinny dips in pools, washing off the sweat and grime, and lain on rocks on Sundays in the warmth of summertime. We've seen the ptarmigan changing hue, the deer rut in the spring, eagles, ospreys, grouse and larks, and capercaillie on the wing, saxifrage, tomental, primrose and heath are spread beneath our feet. We've also been up to our armpits in wet and soggy peat. It's a long way we've come together, wife Molly and I, since the days we used to hostel, and when she would cry, "Don't put me in the top bank, I have a head for height, I haven't a head for fight." And how do you cook a boiled egg in the Primus late at night? She'll now cross Burns and scramble heights, the impin was a gas, though she still tests rocks for movement and will slow down on her bottom. But now she thinks that nothing about how the weary map and the compass and weather signs and useful things like that. But we're no longer Monroe baggers who stick pins in maps and boring folks with mountain tales and silly things like that. We're not as interested in counting how many we've done and what we've got to go, and spend every waking hour planning our next Munro. But we're now just ordinary folk. We'll go out for a ramble, as long as it takes up a hill that's over 3,000 feet, involves a wee bit scramble. And maybe for the future we'll take little cats and show her the pleasure and fulfilment of climbing Scots Munros. But just to put the record right, since the Drifters was our 50s, we've now completed them within 8 years, so haven't we been nifty? The 277 now we have done, and some twice and more. And for accuracy, I will add 144 tops and 21 deleted Munros, but then who's counting? So here in Anachmore at last we've achieved our objective, elated though somewhat sad. Not all we wish are present, but I wish to thank you all for coming and coming up our last bend and tell you I have but one wish left. That's to do them all again. And to finish this little preamble, I'd like to another quote by John Muir, who I think is a fantastic person. Was it? Thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home, that wilderness is a necessity.